you mentioned the placenta and the umbilical cord, and yes, this is what we are concerned about. Is the baby getting fed properly? Is he getting enough nutrients through the placenta? So now they're starting to study, doing more on placental studies and gas exchange and nutrient exchange and what's getting through the umbilical cord. There's a lot of talk about it, but not a lot of knowledge.
This is the Birth Agni podcast, the fire that brings us alive, that burns myths and opens a channel of authentic natural birth stories. This show debunks the many myths of the medicalized births, showcases the plethora of choices a pregnant couple can make to embark on their empowered birth journey. I'm Divya Kapoor, a certified birth and lactation counselor and an aspiring traditional birth attendant. Let's get the flames blazing high. We are in part 2 of our conversation with Senior Traditional Midwife KL Goode, who has over 53 years of experience, having assisted over 1,400 births. In part 1, we discussed big babies at length, or large for gestational age babies at length. And today we are going to focus on small for gestational age babies, also called SGA and IUGR. And there's a huge difference between them. We're going to focus on that today. But I encourage you to go ahead and listen to part 1 first if you haven't heard that yet, and listen to this in continuation. Let's get started.
Would you be worried if there is a big baby and you're able to feel the baby, like the bones, like there is presumably a low amniotic fluid that you see? Would you be worried then?
I need more than that.
Yeah.
So I would pay attention to that. Okay, I'm feeling more. Okay, so another thing to point out with a diabetic baby, they aren't fat, they're swollen. They're
Um,
edemic. They're holding on to fluids. So when you feel somebody who's swollen, it feels very different from fat. Yeah? So if you get a chance when you next time you notice somebody with swollen feet, a pregnant lady, swollen legs, you get a chance to feel, you'll understand that is not fat. That's not muscle. That's a lot of fluid. And of course, we can tell by, doing the pitting. We're checking for pitting by, you know. So if I see this on the mother, I can feel it differently on a baby. I would note, okay, there's less amniotic fluid. But the other thing I want to note, if we're talking diabetes, and we're trying to rule this out, baby's activity, what I might want to do then is a non-stress test right then and there. I can play, you know me, I play with the babies right there. That's the stress. I've always stressed my babies. Hi.
palpitations. Yeah.
You can't get out. You can't get away from me. And in this way, I pay attention to their heart rate. If the baby is compromised, I'll know. His heart rate will decrease. He will not be movable, or he will slow down in his movements. His movements will feel different to me because I already know how he moves. And then I have to rule out between him settling down or being compromised. Before you give birth, babies do slow down. They drop into the pelvis, they engage. And in this place they have less room to move, so they slow down naturally. So you have to rule all these things out. But the main thing is I approach every birth, every bump, every baby as healthy. I'm assuming he's healthy. So number one, and we're also talking about the fact that women are now sent off for surgery if they are diagnosed with either a large baby or, even more stupid, is a small baby. We need to Caesar you because your baby's small. That is the dumbest thing. Um, so, if you were going to rule out the large baby, you can't deliver, your pelvis is too small. How do you know? How do you know my pelvis is too small? Oh, Mataji. Madam, we can see on the ultrasound. No, you can't. You see shadowy images, but you cannot tell me how much my bones will stretch. You can see my baby's head, but you cannot tell me. You can't guess how he's going to mold his head, how he's going to angle his head a little bit this way, and then if he just tips it a little bit back, then okay, he's gone so far now he can tip forward again. You know, at least number one, before you can say any goddamn thing, you need to do pelvimetry. And so we're measuring. Pelvimetry is, let's say, it's not as well. It's as scientific as it is carpentry. Pelvimetry. I can measure the pelvis and get an idea of the shape of your pelvis. I can get an idea of the baby's size and strength.
Right. And you would do this with an internal examination, right?
If I felt I wanted to, as I said in the old days, back in the 80s and the 90s, you you did pelvimetry on every woman when they came to see you. Usually toward the end of pregnancy, you'd find out. You'd measure the baby. You'd feel the baby's head up against the pelvis, and you'd find out stuff, information. I stopped doing that. It was considered somewhat invasive, and it is. And if I can not do something, I'm very happy. So I was very happy to drop it. Number two, so at least do pelvimetry before you tell a woman she can't do it. And when I say pelvimetry, I say with your hands, not with an ultrasound. That is not accurate. And even after I've done that, you cannot rule out natural birth without a decent trial of labor. And with that decent trial of labor, I also mean that the woman goes into labor on her own. She does not get induced. You don't wheel her into the hospital, read her the riot act. Unless you have your baby in so many hours or you start labor, we're going to have to cut you open. Not with that.
Yeah.
So all of this crap is crap. Bring it in. Bring in a hammer when you have a nail. With a trial of labor, I'll determine. I will find out. God, you're going to find out, right? You're in labor. Oh,
Yeah.
the baby's not making it. Really not making it. Now you found, okay, you're right. You are a nail.
Yeah. So even if you have a baby, that's presumably you do see a mother that has diabetes, and you do see a lot of glucose. You work with that, and the baby is big. Even then, if it looks okay, you would encourage the mother to have a trial of labor, would you, like as a midwife?
I would, and what you would do is continue to monitor the baby. So, who are we concerned about? The baby. What are we concerned about? That because of his condition, he will not be strong enough to tolerate the chore, the heavy work that labor is for both mother and baby. Having said that, in all my 1,400 births, I actually have not seen diabetes ever, ever,
Oh my.
ever. I've had people come to me told they had diabetes, but we determined they did not.
Yeah, and in pregnancy also the body kind of becomes very intelligent. It tries to fix you. All the
Yes,
issues.
actually, your body, a woman's body tends to be its healthiest during pregnancy. I mean, how amazing is that? So, really, 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 people need to be encouraged. Oh no, you're going to have a great feast. Get them excited. There's going to be ladus, there's special ladus of divyas. There's going to be sweet rice. There's going to be a whole feast. There's going to be a marching band. This is going to be an exciting moment instead of, this is very serious. You're on the door. You are on the threshold of death, you and your baby. And that's what's being taught. You are now on the threshold of death. Whereas the truth is, you are at the top of this mountain. So we
Agree.
inspire everybody for this amazing journey. It's hard, yeah, but hiking's cool. Hiking is hard work. Your heart, you sweat, you know,
And the
it's
legs
happening.
pain and everything, yeah, and but it's still enjoyable with all the hard work. So labor is the same.
Look at all those amazing pictures that we have of women who've just given birth. They're looking miserable for a moment or two, but always that joy, that excitement. That's initiation. That's something spiritual. That's magic. That's why God gave you that body, that one, the body of women with these breasts that we're not to be ashamed of. I mean, hell, everybody actually likes them, right? So they're there for babies, our bellies that stretch. What for? To build a baby, to build life, to build future. That's exciting. That's awesome. And guess what? Only women get to do this. And that's why we're kind of dumb.
Yeah, and small for gestational babies you've already spoken of. There's a new term that's there in the market, and you've told us time and again that IUGR was never something you considered, and now women are being diagnosed with either small for gestation age babies or IUGR. So small for gestational age is just the small weight of the baby. And when it said IUGR, a few factors are taken into consideration. It's both are done with an ultrasound, but in an ultrasound, the flow from the placenta, the blood flow from the placenta is checked when it's an IUGR. So a symmetry in the baby's body and the parts of the body parts of the baby are considered. The symmetry is considered in IUGR. So when it looks like the some of the parts of the baby's body are not symmetric or according to whatever standards they're checking it, or they're smaller in size, then it's considered that you might be having an IUGR pregnancy. But it's also like a few research papers then said the an analysis of the rate at which asymptomatic problems are diagnosed. For example, IUGR doesn't have any symptoms as such, and SGA wouldn't have any symptoms. And it's just an ultrasound study, and that also depends on the person doing an ultrasound how he or she understands the symmetry or asymmetry. But there is a Lancet review that says that, and it's on IUGR and SG, and it says that an analysis of the rate at which asymptomatic problems are diagnosed, missed, or overdiagnosed in a total population of pregnant women attending specialists and general practitioners for antenatal care indicated that detection of some problems is incomplete and overdiagnosis is common. So, the productivity of routine antenatal care in respect of prediction and detection of obstetric problems is low. Like routine antenatal ultrasounds and routine care is not really helping us predict problems, and it's overdiagnosing problems. Have you ever had a case where a baby seemed to be small for gestational age or symmetry when you're checking the baby with your hands?
So symmetry, no, I've never. That's something new. I've never heard that before. It's not something I look for when during palpation. For one thing, you generally speaking, you can only find half the body at any time. So I'm either palpating the left side of the back or I'm palpating the right side of the back. I can get one leg, I can't get the other leg at the same time. And I also think that's stupid. You have a lot of people with some people have lifts in their shoes because one leg is shorter than the other. We should abort these people. You have, this is where one guy's eye is a little out of sync. Okay, let's get rid of this person. There's something defective about him. So all of a sudden we're worried about symmetry, and this is a sign of beauty. That's where we get concerned about the Fibonacci code. It's about it's a balance. It's a proportion. So we're looking for beauty now. Now we get rid of the ugly people who are asymmetrical. And let me make a difference between small for gestational age and intrauterine growth retardation. So, one is that he's small for gestation, which can be a variety of things. Your parents could be midgets. One parent could be a midget. One parent could have a parent or a grandparent that was a midget. That would make a very healthy midget baby. I will not consider this person a problem, this baby. And therefore, I will not introduce other problems to create a problem, if that makes sense. We see something, oh, one eye is higher than the other. I don't like this. So let's introduce more interventions, more fear. Let's do a lot more um, analytical procedures that we really don't yet understand, but let's do it. However, intrauterine growth retardation means the growth has been retarded. It is not proceeding properly. There is a difference between the two. If a baby's growth is retarded, you mentioned the placenta and the umbilical cord, and yes, this is what we are concerned about. Is the baby getting fed properly? Is he getting enough nutrients through the placenta? So now they're starting to study, doing more on placental studies and gas exchange and nutrient exchange and what's getting through the umbilical cord. There's a lot of talk about it, but not a lot of knowledge. We do want to assure that babies who are measuring small are not at risk, meaning that they're not following into that growth retardation category. How do I know? Playing with a baby, how does he respond? So, and I will say, certainly in India, it's astounding how small babies are here. It's always been the way. It's always been the case. I've always seen chickens, perfectly good women have little chickens for babies. And I ended up just accepting that's how you guys do it. At least down where I am in Bengal, everybody's way shorter than me, right? So if a baby has growth retardation, he will not respond well to being stimulated. I'll play with him. His heart rate will drop. Often, too, just playing with a baby causes the uterus to contract mildly, and it'll give me an indication how's this baby handling contractions. So, normally I don't find a problem and they're all okay. I have not found a compromised baby in my 1400 births. Small babies, yeah, but they were all good for the job. They were good for the birth. They made it through. They came out like everybody else. They survived like everybody else. So I haven't had issues personally, but yeah, I have a lot of trust and faith in mothers, in babies, and the powers of nature. A lot of women are now being introduced as cesareans for babies being small. Nowadays, I'm finding out that without women being informed, women are given injections.
Yes, they're being induced. Induction is being offered for IUGR or small for gestational age babies.
And
Considering
you know
they're
what they're doing?
compromised,
They're giving surfactant. They're preparing your baby to be delivered early. They're not discussing it with you. They're not explaining, but they're already getting you prepped for cesarean section. How's that? How's that? Now, when you start messing with the natural order of things, you start screwing things up, and now we're lost. Now I don't know what's going on.
you've said that I would wait for the baby to actually grow. In that case, it might also be so nobody knows when the woman conceives. So, gestation and the due date in itself is a guess. So, when it comes to that, we are not even considering the woman's cycles and when, how long the cycles are in midwifery, we do, in obstetrics, we don't. Or maybe they used to and they've stopped doing it now. So, from that perspective, you would, if there is an active baby only small, you would of course like wait for spontaneous labor and wait for that baby to grow, than induce and get that baby out thinking it is compromised. If the placenta is not working properly, which may be IUGR, so
Yep,
like,
yep.
then what would be your call? How would you go about things?
Well, first thing I would do is go back to the diet. I'll look at what the mothers eat. I'll pull out the chart that I had before. I'll review it. I'll ask her if she's eating like that again, or has her diet changed. So I'll roll out a bunch of things like this, and then I'll get her to do a new diet chart, and I'll look at it. First thing, but of course, okay. So if I'm worried a baby's compromised or he's small, I'll mess around with him for a bit. What I'm trying to do, I'm messing with him because if I'm grabbing you, Divya, and I start shaking you, your heartbeat's going to pick up, even if it's a friendly shake. I'm going to dance with you or do something silly. Your heartbeat's going to go up. So I'm going to do, basically, that's what I'm doing. I'm messing with the baby, getting his heartbeat to go up, and assuming the placenta is functioning, the placenta and the baby will work together, and the baby will not go into distress, mild distress. And that will be that's how I will work it. Then if I'm a little worried, if I'm still, then because really what we're worried about, what are we worried about? If the placenta isn't functioning properly, is not providing the oxygen exchange that a baby requires, especially in labor. It's natural, it's normal, it is the process that the contractions come. Like it's normal for you, Divya, to have your heart rate pick up if I'm going to say hello to you. It's just how it works. So, similarly, stress comes down upon the baby. Good, natural, normal, healthy stress. Natural, normal, healthy stress. Any normal, healthy baby manages. When a baby is compromised, you will have decels in the heart rate. You will find the baby's heart slow down. Then, after that, you will have a tired baby who will not want to play with you. I can do that at home,
Yeah.
all by tickling the mother. Seriously, that's what I'm doing. I'm playing with the mother, I'm tickling her. If I have to, I'll give her some collophylum. I
Mhm.
will not give her oxytocin in a drip. I will not give her Pitocin. I won't do any of those things.
Yeah.
I will tickle her, and her uterus will contract.
Hmm.
And then
Yeah.
I'll listen to the baby's heartbeat through the contraction, coming up to the contraction, through the contraction, as the contraction ends, when the contraction is finished, and I continue to listen. Often it's more that the mother needs to, let's look at the mother. Let's look at the home. Let's look at how the household is revolving around her. I have had a number of families with domestic abuse. And in India, this is big. And it doesn't have to come it doesn't have to be physical. It doesn't have to come from the husband. It certainly can come from in-laws. And even if it's just verbal or emotional abuse, this adds incredible stress to the mother. If she's disturbed enough, yes, her placenta can separate a little degree. This is all caused by distress. So I always go to those issues first. I want to look at those things, see if I can help or sort or resolve or identify. What can you do with domestic abuse? Not a lot, but I can sit down with the parents. Okay, this is what's going on. This is what's happening with your baby. This is why it's happening with your baby. You guys need to work some stuff out. And you need to start talking to your baby. And that's worked.
So it's never like a lot of the times the mothers are told your placenta is not functioning at par, so we need to induce you because it might compromise the baby further. We need to get the baby out now in about these many times. All this management, like trying to understand the household environment, the emotional state of the mother, where she's at, maybe the diet, maybe how else the placenta can be brought back to functioning at par. All that is not taken into consideration because we understand that the body is not working anymore. So, in so it's not that kind of an emergency, right? It's not that the placenta has really stopped, and you have to uh, get the baby out, or the baby is going to be compromised to an extent that you're going to have some sort of a problem with the baby in situations like.
So okay, you're right. This misunder then if there's fear, oh, the placenta is going to stop working. That is oh so rare and very extremely rare that it just, oh, I'm tired, I'm going to stop now. This type of growth retardation, which is based on, in this case, and what we're discussing, this growth retardation is based on something happening to the placenta. This one. There are other reasons why you can have growth retardation. But we're looking at the placenta, and certainly that's what the ultrasound is going to attack first, the placenta. I don't fix anything until it's broken. I do maintenance. What's maintenance? Check the family, check the diet, comfort the mother. If it's something more serious than that, then let's investigate. Is it diabetes? Is it abruptio? Is there a bit of the placenta abrupted? Now, depending what I'm worried on. So recently I did have a woman. She was early in labor, but she was hemorrhaging. Um, and so, yeah, we wanted to know. I wanted to know, number one, this was so early. I could feel a sac. There is an amnion sac, but it was early enough that I couldn't really tell. I could feel the baby too. I could bounce him back and forth. But I cannot tell at this point how well he is. So we did have an ultrasound. And we did find that there was a bit of abruption, that a part of the placenta had lifted, had separated, and that there is hemorrhaging, some bleeding had come. But of course, the system is the physiological thing that should occur, which did occur, is that a blood clot formed, the clot stops the bleed, and the pregnancy continues as normal. She's still pregnant. She's due end of next month. Whereas I caught her at 14 weeks, I think it was when we saw her. She continued to bleed for some time till it finally stopped. So we did do an ultrasound to see what was happening. And and then we let it go. It's all good. Then there was another one, the one you met, who she was also bleeding. And then we kind of felt, okay, she miscarried. And what should we do to make sure? So yep, go ahead, have the ultrasound. And sometimes in situations like this, I don't mind it because it's reassuring for the mother. In both those cases, it becomes reassuring for the mother as well as me, for the mother. We're looking at the uterus. I'm not looking at how the uterus is performing. That study is not thorough yet. That study is not fully understood. We can see blood clots. You can see blood flowing. So I could rule out there is a blood clot that stopped the blood flow. Good. That's what I wanted to know. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Like there is a baby that you see that is compromised. In that case, you'd work around it. And if and even then you'd go for a trial of labor. And if things do not seem, if the baby doesn't seem to be coping up, of course there are the options of transferring the mother for an emergency. So this is what I understand. This is
Hmm.
what you do if there is, and it's going to be case to case.
If the baby's compromised, I'd still be feeding that mother up. I would be I would be healing and looking and working on the mother to make her feel better. I would not be approaching her as some problem, a bomb ready to go off.
Hmm.
I would be approaching her as someone who needs loving care. Her baby needs loving care. He does not need an assault army. So if I can monitor everything, and usually I can, I see the problem in the beginning and we work on things. We do homeopathics, we do herbs, we do counseling, we do cuddles, kisses and hugs, man. Those go a far way. Those things go a long way to help a woman. If it goes beyond that, I just haven't seen it go beyond that. I've been able to
Hmm.
take care of those women and babies so that they can give birth naturally when the baby know it's been my experience. I'm thinking, so what is a stillbirth? It's a baby who dies before birth. Why do they do that? I don't know. Most babies that die stillbirths, we don't know why. Sometimes you can find a real obvious reason, like a cord, a true knot. Sometimes you have lumps in cords, but you can have an actual knot. And yes, I've had a baby like this. I've had babies who died intrauterine without warning,
Everything was absolutely fine. All the checks were okay, but there's
and it
no
was close
reason.
to delivery too. I think it was like 37 weeks or something. And I'd seen them like a day or two earlier. And then they came back saying, no, we don't feel the baby moving. And sure enough, I couldn't find the heartbeat, couldn't get him to move. We send off, they go to the hospital for an ultrasound and confirm the death. Oh, that was the true knot. He did have a knot. The one with the true knot, you're not going to find it because true knots you can't tell from a false knot because they look the same by ultrasound. It just suddenly sort of happens.
So, meaning you're saying that there hasn't been ever that there seemed to be a compromised placenta and a stillbirth. The cases of stillbirths that you've had, one of the reasons we are so worried about IUGR, we are worried about babies or placentas that seem to be compromised is the baby's not going to be the baby may be stillborn or the baby may die, but you've not had though the cases of stillbirths that you've had there were really no indications and there were no really strong supposedly answers to
Correct.
those something we think in obstetrics we can save, and that's what we know in midwifery that we can't save, we do not know certain things.
Over my experiences, and of course, when you get into this field, you swallow everything you can find. Right? You look at all kinds of studies, and you really try to understand. And really, at the end of the day, with all my study and understanding and experience, I trust the body and nature far more than our science. Especially in the field of obstetrics, we've really screwed it up repeatedly every time because we approach childbirth as a problem about to happen. It's so we're always trying to fix it, even though it isn't broken.
And what are your thoughts about induction as a remedy for small or compromised babies?
That's the stupidest thing. If your baby is compromised, why would you put him through an induction? That has Inductions have a mind of their own. They're just machines. Yep, yep. They're just machines that go in the body and they just do this. And they don't give a stuff about the mother and they don't give a stuff about the baby. This this is oxytocin not secreted from you in moderate amounts, that because your body is releasing oxytocin according to what it knows the body needs, and being in connection with the baby, it knows what the baby can handle. Now you take a robot dressed up like oxytocin, he's going to march in there like the military and take over with no knowledge. Understand what infantry is. The infantry are your stupid people. They're the people you send out to the front line because you don't care if they die, right? So it's the same thing. We're just putting stupid people into the body and they don't care who they kill. Yeah?
Yeah, so it's gonna stress the baby all the more.
Why would you do that? If you're worried that the baby can't handle natural labor, why would you hand him 8 times the stress? Makes no sense whatsoever. Keep that baby right where he is. Feed the mother. Now, if so doing, and I will say I agree, if I've got a baby that is not handling labor, it hasn't happened to me yet, but let's say I've got a small baby. I'm worried, okay, you are small. If I'm worried about a baby handling it, I'll go through a few contractions. If I feel this baby is distressed, I will transfer to the hospital for a few reasons. I'm not a fanatic about the home birth. I am the goal is health. The goal is to support a mother. I want a healthy baby because these guys are now being put under way stress. It's not normal to sink a knife into someone's belly and cut it open. That is not normal. A woman's body, even if she desperately needs that operation, will freak out. Fuck, your body will do this. But hello, I'll send you down that route to get the baby out if it's compromised. But I sure as hell want you both well and able. I don't want you worn out to the point that you're not strong enough for major surgery, because it's major surgery. So I
Yeah,
want
makes
you
sense.
strong, and sure as hell, I want your baby alive.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. So going in for an emergency when there is really an emergency, and not just basis of a test or
First, I find it. I don't
yeah,
assume it. I
yeah,
find it. And if you transfer, by the way, then you whack oxygen on the mother.
yeah,
Put oxygen on the mother and then you oxygenate the baby's blood. And by the way, when you do find fetal distress like this, then give the mother the oxygen mask and see how the baby responds. It's also quite possible that with that little bit of extra oxygenation, the baby will get enough oxygen to handle the labor and you can stay home, right? So
yeah. So there are a bunch of things we can do. Um,
there are far more things you can do and not do and have a very, very healthy baby. Perfectly
yeah,
fine than if you did everything you could do In fact,
Right.
in general, they do better the less you do, and they do worse the more you do.
Absolutely.
Keep that in
We'll,
mind.
yes. On that note, we'll end our conversation. So much. There's just one bit of a review that I read. I want to just quote that. So it says that it is possible for a baby to be born SGA with no prior retardation. In this case, the baby would be small throughout the pregnancy with the normal growth rate. So now this is a lot of labeling, right? For a normal baby, we're calling the baby small for gestational age. We are calling that a baby was small throughout, was normal, or had a normal growth rate, but was born with a low birth weight, which is okay and is going to be absolutely fine. So a baby with SGA may not be retarded, like not retarded, I mean growth retarded. I'm so sorry.
Political correctness.
And alternatively, a baby could have had IUGR but be born with a normal birth weight.
Yes.
In this case, the baby's growth in the womb would be poor, leading to IUGR, but not to the extent that the poor growth rate caused a low birth weight. So there is so much more to look at individual to a person than be about IUGR or than be about SGA or than be about LGA or whatever. I mean, so many things to mess up our brain with when the baby is doing absolutely fine there and doing
So
very well
many
to your
things to
tickles.
mess up. What did you just say? Say that again.
I don't remember.
There's
But
so
yeah,
many things that to mess up the. We said something like this. So
yeah,
we're looking so hard, and we're adding more and more and more things to look at that we still don't know, but we're going to look at it anyway. We're starting to find arbitrary things which are normal, meaning I just decided this is normal and that's abnormal. I think it's normal that everybody has this kind of white hair. And anybody with hair like you, yeah, no, that's sick. That's really something abnormal. We should all look like this. Only because we did the stats in an old folks' home.
The next batch of childbirth classes begins in January. I'm also taking on mums who wish to have me as their doula from January itself. So if you're interested, you can send me an email by visiting the website www.birthagni.com. There is a field beyond fear, where the body is empowered to take on labor and birth. To land there, it is crucial to take birth education. To enroll into our unique labor and birth preparation course, reach out to us at www.birthagni.com or scroll through all available prenatal and postnatal preparation classes. Thank you for listening, all in the spirit of birth, womanhood, and freedom. Remember, you got the power. This podcast is about physiological birth and does not offer or claim to provide medical knowledge or diagnosis.